The next segment, we're going to hear from the founders of one of the industry's biggest marketing and sharing groups, AIMM, the Alliance of Independent Music Merchants. They were founded 20 years ago with a mission to help grow the industry, a mission to build bridges, and to strengthen relationships between vendors and retailers. This is a big milestone for them, and I really believe they've been successful in achieving their goals. Let's hear from their founders, Skip Maggiora of Skip's Music, George Hines of George's Music, and Bob Bankston of, Pro Sound Music and Sound. Come on, you guys. You missed the memo on naming the store. Skip. George. Bob. First of all, I got to say, we go way back, and these guys are almost like my adopted parents here, and how I came up in the industry and learned everything. Yeah, I'm usually in trouble with those guys. This was something. I was at Skip's when this was being batted about. It evolved over time, but there was something coming. And again, it wasn't seen. You were talking about a time when most people were doing very well, and almost complacent, like this is always going to be this way. You guys saw something coming that others didn't. What did you see?
Well, I'm going to start. Is that all right?
It's the usual way. Yeah. Please go on.
That's what happens. You get a bunch of three entrepreneurs that... So most of us are startups. So we began in the 70s, our businesses. So by the mid-90s, some major things were happening in the music industry. And we would get together and kind of vision out and talk about what was happening. And we came to the conclusion that in the 90s, there was big changes in the expansion of chain stores. There was the mail order businesses that were actually doing very well. And then we saw when the internet started developing that things were really changing fast. And so we got together and we said, you got a choice here. You can lead, follow, or get out of the way. And it was really, literally, we sat down and said, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And so we decided we wanted to take some control over that change.
Yep.
And we decided to we put a business plan together. We met in Orlando, and that's how we got it all started. Yep. And we pushed it forward.
I remember that 2 weeks before the Namm show in 1998.
Yeah.
I remember that. So what made this work, though? What was the special about this? I'm probably guessing others had the idea or thought of things like this, but Bob, what do you think made this work?
The thing that made it work was there was a need. And the thing that we learned as AIMM got started is there was an even far greater need than we realized. And dealers very much wanted to learn from one another. All different dealers have different experiences. They have different areas of specialty. And from that, people can learn from one another. And people were really anxious to learn from one another. So there was a big need, and that's a part of what made it work. Also, and I think people in this room can relate to this as well, oftentimes as an entrepreneur, you feel alone, right? So much of the time you feel by yourself. Yeah. And in a group like AIMM, you're no longer alone. You're no longer by yourself. You can share with others, much like yourself, that have many of the same challenges and many of the same opportunities. Yeah. And so that was a key factor.
What I saw when you guys got together was a level of trust. How did that play into this? You guys enjoyed being around each other. You laughed a lot. What was the role of trust? And then it has expanded to bringing others in. What was your thought on that?
That trust was actually built before even the concept of AIMM.
Yeah.
Amongst a lot of us. A lot of us dealers had met on different trips and different things like that, and understood, had a mutual respect for each other, each being successful in their own ways.
Respect.
And it was that respect that it was built off of, I think. There was no need at that time that we thought we were going to fail ourselves in our own ways, but there was that storm brewing. And as soon as you got to trust somebody and you started having conversations, you started recognizing, geez, I'm learning and I'm taking stuff back to my own business because I'm sharing with this other very smart dealer that I've come to respect. And he's trusted me enough to share backwards. So that's where the roots of it started.
Yeah,
and
still today probably is the foundation of it all, right?
It is.
We are good friends.
Yeah.
Lifelong friends.
Lifelong.
What were surprises along the way? What along the way, because in 20 years, a lot happened. Think of the last 20 years in every one of your lives. So much has happened.
So I think some of the biggest things are we were trying to build culture first. And that meant finding like minds. And when you're doing that, you sometimes think someone is a certain way, and then you discover they're not. So as you're building it, we're very careful of picking and choosing who we wanted to partner with, because the consumer needs were getting out of control. They were getting very demanding, and we made some mistakes. And when you make those mistakes, you have to figure out how to back out, and then sometimes you miss some opportunities. You try to figure out how to recover, and I think are some of the biggest.
You know, I think one of the things you mentioned earlier in one of our conversations, George, was one of the things you saw coming was the complete shift of where the power
was.
It's
a tidal wave. Yeah.
All went to the consumer.
So for the audience, that we started about 40 years ago, all of us. So when we started, the industry was really controlled, if you will, by manufacturing suppliers. They had franchise agreements. They really controlled it. Geography, you name it. And that kept that way until the 90s. And then it shifted to these chain stores that just started very quickly expanding. But we saw with the internet, we saw that was short-lived. We knew the consumer would be the ultimate power. And we think they were going to be that way now from now going forward.
It's not going back.
It ain't going back. So our, we saw that tidal wave. And I live in Florida, so we're used to looking at, we know the hurricane's coming, we don't know when. And we all knew the hurricanes were coming, and we just thought, wow, there's some really smart people. We love this industry. Let's get them all together. If we do this smartly, and we build trust with our suppliers, and we get the smartest people together, can we do a better job of helping mold the future? And
Bob, were you surprised at how fast it happened?
Very much so.
I mean, it was like, was anyone going to be interested? I remember those first meetings, like, well, cast a couple other stores and see if they'd meet with us, and then like, you guys like this or not? I mean, next thing you know, it's like you couldn't.
Very much so.
The people that wanted to be in it,
Yeah, we were surprised. We didn't know that so many retailers would be so willing to share with other retailers and to share their strategies and share success stories and share some of the how-to. And what we find today is with the group, grown to the size that it has, no matter what one retailer wants to undertake, chances are another retailer in the group has already been there or is in the process. And they're more than happy, because of the culture of sharing and the culture of trust, they're more than happy to share with a fellow AIMM retailer some of those things that they've learned along the way. And so you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can learn from others, as I said, that have already been there.
20 years, what's next?
Well, I want to add one thing to that. We share a lot with our vendor partners too, and we've learned so much to understand what they're going through, the changes they've had to go through, and the things that they're doing. And when we understand it as retailers, we can work with them and get past that a lot easier. And the same thing from them. They're starting to understand our side of this picture. So we are strategically coming together to work closer as an industry.
I mean, they've got to work together.
No,
I mean,
you have to.
I remember we did some skit at Namm once. We redubbed that great Monty Python scene from Life of Brian, where what have the Romans ever done for us?
Exactly.
And it was, what have the suppliers ever done for us? And then we redubbed it, what have the retailers ever done for us? And you go this litany of, damn, they actually did a lot for us. Each other really were truly partners. And AIMM has highlighted that, to your credit. You really brought the idea that, look, we are ultimately all serving the customer.
That's right.
Right.
The customer.
I want to answer that question of yours. Yes. What's coming next is really exciting. It's really exciting because it's moving so quickly, and you should expect the unexpected. I think we've all determined that that's the way it's going to be. But the adversity creates opportunity. And we should just embrace all these changes as quickly as possible. Work together, listen to each other. If we can build good understandings within the industry, as the consumer becomes more demanding, we're going to adapt because we're aware and we're listening and we're working together and we're building these long friendships with not only retailers but suppliers, retailers. It's always been about the culture. If we do that, things are going to be great. If instead we move off of the culture and we forget the mission, it may not be as good an ending.
Wow. Great job, guys. Happy anniversary. 20
Thank you
years.
much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jim.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great having you here today. My parents, my adopted parents. See you later, guys. All right.